Normally when I make a purchase from Sweetwater, they ship it out to me in a couple days. I get it. It's great, I love it. This order, however, was such a big investment and a big step forward for Kat and I that we decided we now had an excuse to go to see the headquarters. So we packed our bags. Pro travel tip, get an e-cooler, it'll save you a ton of money on the road. We loaded up the car, took my best friend to a doggy resort, and we headed for Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, if you didn't know this, Sweetwater offers a number of really useful perks on site at their headquarters, and one of them we took advantage of. Now, I think they do this for 2 different brands, but I know for a fact if you place an order for Westone in-ear monitors and you make your way up to Fort Wayne, Indiana, at Sweetwater's headquarters, they have an audiologist on site and they'll offer a free in-ear mold consultation. Now, we had our appointment set for the next day, which gave us a chance to see the facilities once we arrived in the evening. And what no one really tells you about this facility is that, one, it's absolutely massive in scope. They have on-site live venues, they have a concert hall, they have studios, they have obviously the store itself. But my absolute favorite part was right when you walked in the door, they had this awesome historical piece just right out in front, this whole timeline of incredible gear that changed music, and I didn't really expect that, so I was totally geeking out as I was trying to even get past the first 50 feet of the store. It was really worth the trip out there. If you have any reason at all to go and visit, I think it's almost like a rite of passage, so definitely give it a go if you have a chance to make it out there. Now, I didn't really pay attention to this on Sweetwater's website, but when I arrived, it turns out that it was also Gear Fest, so there were a ton of content creators. I happened to run into Colt Caparoon, incredibly nice guy. First chance of actually meeting him. So Colt, if you're watching, cheers, buddy. And that's not even mentioning all the really cool people from Sweetwater that I had a chance to meet. One of whom was my rep, Daniel. We've been talking on the phone for years. I finally got to meet him, and that was a really cool, rewarding experience. Daniel, thanks for taking time out of your day to just show me around the place and hang out for a little bit. Daniel's absolutely world-class and really helpful, so if you have gear-related questions, I've started leaving his contact info for Sweetwater in the description below. If you reach out to him, tell him I said hi, and he'll certainly guide you in the right direction. While my time at Sweetwater was short-lived, I had an absolute blast. Everyone at Sweetwater is world-class, and to everyone else that I didn't mention in the video, thank you for being a great host. Anyways, let me know in the comments if you've been to the facilities before and what your favorite part of Sweetwater headquarters is. And while you're at it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for all things UAD and Luna. But for now, let's talk about this rig and its purpose and the whole point of the rig. If you search for in-ear monitor rigs, you're basically going to find the exact same rig in slightly different configurations. Most of them are centered around a Behringer X32r. This rig is completely different, which is in fact 100% of the reason I decided to make this video. And for those of you who are searching YouTube for answers to in-ear monitor rig builds, you probably already know the purpose for this, but I'm just gonna share it with everyone that doesn't know the purpose of these rigs. What one of these rigs will do for a band or for an artist is 2 things. One, it can act as a front of house rig on a smaller scale. So if you're playing a smaller show and you have to run your own sound, you're already 99% of the way there. You might just have to adjust a few things inside of the device's controls for whatever situation that you might be in. And 2, this is kind of a more common situation, but it's gonna act as one self-contained monitor rig so that when you're playing a show live, all you have to do is get your front of house mix, and that's what the front of house engineer is gonna do. But your monitors are already taken care of and they're wireless, it's great. So it really speeds up your entire live performance setup process. So you might be asking, how do I accomplish this and what exactly do I need to make a rig like this? So let's talk about what Kat and I needed and why we went with what we went with. First, Kat and I wanted a rig that could handle backing tracks. We knew that we also wanted to have stereo wireless ears, at least the capability to have 3 independent wireless ear mixes or any combination of 2 wireless stereo ears and also 2 more wireless mono ears for additional band members if we needed to. We knew we wanted a wireless microphone for Kat. We also made sure to get wireless guitar setups. And we also wanted enough I/O to future-proof any sort of situation for a larger setup if we needed to have more tracks, more cues for a lighting director, a talk back, all those kinds of things. Now, to accomplish this, we needed a handful of pieces. So let's run down what the rig actually has. First and foremost, we have power. This isn't anything fancy. It's just a standard Furman. Obviously, it's gonna power the whole rig. Then below it, we have the seismic splitter snake. This is the 32 in, 64 out. This is the central hub. This piece alone is what makes this entire rig basically possible. Of course, there are smaller configurations and different ways of building your rig out specific to your needs. This takes all of the inputs and then feeds it to where they need to go. For backing tracks, I have this old Tascam US 1608 lying around, so I repurposed it. Then right here, we have a Sennheiser EWG4, which is our wireless microphone, and we went with the Neumann microphone. I wanted my wife to be happy and feel special, so we've got her on the Neumann. That's pretty cool, right? Then we have two new XSWs for wireless ears, and Kat also had lying around a Shure PSM 300. So we also repurposed that and finally got a chance to use it. All of the wireless ears then feed into the RF venue combiner. That is something that Daniel from Sweetwater recommended, and I cannot thank him enough. I've had a chance to play around with it, and here in the apartment complex that I'm at, there's obviously tons of Wi-Fi, cell phones, you name it, and I didn't get whipped once when we used this. So absolutely incredible. If you've ever had wireless in your monitors, you know what getting whipped feels like and sounds like, and it's not fun. Now, finally, and most controversially, we went with the PRESONUS Studiolive 32r. Now, I'm gonna make a separate video entirely on why I went with the Studiolive 32r versus what seems like the industry standard Behringer X32r, along with a few other videos on some specific pieces. If you wanna see anything specific, leave it in the comments below. So be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for those. Now, to wrap up the rest of the rig, we wanted this whole thing to be as seamless and as easy as possible for any front of house engineer. So we also paired it with a Pearl Mimic Pro and an ATV A-Drums series electronic kit. We went with the A-Drums kit, so it obviously kind of looked the part, but also with the Pearl Mimic Pro, it's gonna sound incredible no matter if we're in a big venue or a smaller venue, but particularly in the smaller venues, it's gonna sound way better because we're not gonna have all sorts of stage noise on the stage, and that's 90% of the battle of trying to get a good mix to front of house. It's also going to make it really consistent from show to show to show. So if we roll up on one show and it's a really, really small venue, we can still give the same kind of sonics as a much larger venue. Setting up this rig was easy but very tedious, and I knew ahead of time that it was going to be tedious, so that's why we shoved it into this rack. This is obviously a little bit different than your standard rack, like ATA style rack. I like this one a lot better because it has a lot of airflow around the sides. If you were to get one of the ATA style ones that are shock mounted, it'd just be foam, which not only degrades over time, but again, when you have all of this gear's hot, you need airflow. So this is a really nice case for that. And then also it allowed for me to do special cable management on the back side, which is really where you should be spending your time when you first get all of this gear. I know the tendency is to want to use it and play with it, but the most important part is making sure that if something were to fail, like a cable, that you can easily go through and replace it. And this style case makes that a lot easier to do. So if you'll follow with me here, I'm gonna go over signal flow just one last time so you guys can kind of wrap your head around what's really happening with this rig. So first and foremost, if we had any sort of tracks or clicks or cues, it's gonna come from the Tascam interface, and it's then going to feed into the front side of this seismic audio. From there, it's gonna feed into the PRESONUS Studiolive, which is then gonna feed our monitor mixes. And then simultaneously, it's gonna come out of the seismic and then be sent to front of house, and they can have a completely independent mix from what we're doing here and what our ears are hearing. And then of course, alternatively, if we were to just use this as a standalone front of house rig where we just give a left and right main mix, right? We would still plug in everything the exact same. We just wouldn't do anything with the tails from the seismic. So it's a very convenient rig for pretty much any situation. And if you plan on doing any sort of serious gigging or touring or being an opening act for someone, this is the route that you're really gonna wanna go. Of course, there are plenty of other configurations and you could kind of go hog wild with it, but on the early side of things, this is gonna get you incredibly far. So that's kind of the whole rig in a nutshell. If you're curious about any of the specific items in this rack, links are in the description. I'm certainly gonna make more videos deep diving specific items in the rack unit right now and why I chose them and how to use them, etc. So be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for that. To support the channel further, go to thestevekinney.com where you can schedule one-on-one time with me, as well as pick up some of my presets for the UAD platform. It's a great way to support the channel, as well as learn some of the traditional routing and signal flows that you might find in Pro Studios. Until the next video, guys, cheers. Thanks so much for watching.